Hi, I'm Wes, the Explosion, and this is the Backlog. An update to start us off. I finally completed the Hisui Dex in Pokemon Legends Arceus, officially clearing the game. It got a little rough around the end there. Some of the last few Pokemon that I needed were a pain to snag, and there was one last challenge at the end that really wasn't fun, but I did it, I came out the other side. And yeah, I'm very satisfied. With the Pokédex being a much more integrated part of the story, it felt much more worthwhile to do and even let me see some parts of the game that I wouldn't have otherwise. No simple certificate that could be printed out with a Game Boy camera this time. When I was finally done, I actually felt myself getting a little emotional, though how much of it was due to a sense of accomplishment, how much I love the game, how much I appreciated the game's professor, or that a manga I like posted its last chapter that day, I can't fully say, though I suspect it was a combination. I've talked to a few people who have played the game or plan to in the future, and it seems like most of them aren't planning to finish out their decks, which makes me a little sad for them. I really feel like it's an integral part of the experience and like they're missing out, but I do realize that it's a big ask and not everyone can get as much satisfaction completing checklists as I do. If you do pick up the game though, I would recommend working your way to the shiny charm. I might even have some hot tips for you, if you like. And then there was the Nintendo Direct. I thought it was pretty decent. There were a lot of ports and the like coming to Switch, many of which seemed neat. I might pick up the Portal, Klonoa, and Forced Unleashed one specifically, and the Advance Wars is something I'll definitely grab. I might also move the two Earthbound or Mother games off my Wii U list and play them instead on Switch. A little annoyed that I didn't play the ports I paid for, but hey, might as well use the format I like more, especially if it's not for an additional charge. I was super excited to see more on the Cuphead DLC, which I will buy immediately and likely stream. There was also the Mario Kart DLC, which was kinda crazy. The rumors were we were getting Mario Kart 9, but instead we're getting new content for 8, forever I guess. While I'd like some more characters to go along with it, it certainly seems cool. At first I thought that they were charging $25 for each of the 8 packs, which would be $200, but no, it looks like all 48 tracks are for that amount, which feels like a whole other game's worth of content, so I'm interested. It actually kinda tempts me to get the NSO expansion pass, though another part of me would rather just buy the DLC standalone and then just own it, subscription free, but I do kinda feel like I'm just one carrot away from paying the additional online fee. The update to Kirby and the Forgotten Land scares me. I know the series was already borderline bore, what with the eating of creatures alive and whole, but somehow stretching Kirby over objects like some sort of taxidermied pelt is kinda disturbing. Though upgrading copy abilities is pretty neat. Then there was the Splatoon 3 Salmon Run trailer, which has me excited. There was a part of me that wasn't sure if the mode would be back, what with you having a tiny salmonid buddy in the main game likely making hunting their young a little awkward, and thinking that they might just want to keep it a Splatoon 2 exclusive and replace it with something else to give each game its own unique identity. But nope, it's back. Between the new enemies, the toss function, and the gargantuan salmonid looming just off the coast that we still don't know about, I'm intrigued and looking forward to when the game does drop. Sometime this summer, I hear. Both this game and Kirby will be instant buys and I will likely stream them both as well. Then there were the 5 new games they showed off. I didn't realize there were that many until I went back over the Direct and kept count. The Disney Kart Racer looks like it could be fun, but I'm not the biggest Disney person and would likely rather just enjoy Mario Kart, but it's free to play, so maybe I'll give it a shot. It is kinda weird to announce a new kart racer in the same presentation that they give a revitalization to the king of the genre to, though. There was Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which I still have the 3 previous titles to play through, so if I do get it, it'll be far in the future. It's cool for fans of the series, though. There was the new Mario Strikers, which looks interesting, but I don't think it's my sort of game. I'll probably try to convince somebody else to buy it and see if they'll let me play around, just to satisfy my curiosity. Then there was the one out of left field, the Wii Sports sequel, Nintendo Switch Sports. I really see this as being a title that lives and dies by its price point. Maybe others will disagree, but it looks like the sort of game that I'd pay $30 for, maybe $40. Wii Sports was fun and I enjoyed the novelty of it, but I really can't see myself playing this game for more than an hour outside of with family or friends. It also strikes me as weird that it's launching 6 games, one of which is football soccer, right as they're trying to drop a much more robust looking Strikers. Like with the kart games I mentioned earlier, it almost seems like they're cannibalizing their audience a bit. Either way, I will try out the test run when Nintendo drops it, so maybe I'll be surprised and get hooked. The announcement that has me the most intrigued, though, is Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. I haven't really made it a secret that I love Warriors games, but I believe I've also mentioned that I thought the first Fire Emblem Warriors was bad, and I just enjoyed it more than I should have. There was a good number of characters, but all of them seemed to share the same 10 movesets. Not only that, but the enemy characters had very little variety, and there were several characters that were in the game, but you needed to buy the DLC to actually be able to play them, like Owain and Niles. The whole thing felt rushed and full of low effort, but I loved Fire Emblem enough that I still played it for over 200 hours. I always kinda hope that if it sold well, they might do a sequel and maybe actually put in some effort this time, so I'm surprised but intrigued by them announcing one focusing specifically on 3 houses. Dynasty Warriors games seem to really vary in quality these days, with issues like I talked about plaguing some of its entries, but others like Hyrule Warriors being obvious passion projects that can hardly contain all the love and ideas they have for it. If they're picking a specific Fire Emblem title to focus on, I have some hope that it will be more one of those than the first one was. I'd also like to make a prediction and say that this game will do what 3 Houses did not and give you a unity route. Maybe it'll start with everyone being on the same side, maybe it'll have branching paths that converge like in the 3D Sonic games, but I'm pretty confident on this. When Fates did this, it kinda felt like the least satisfying and most boring option. When 3 Houses dropped, I always kinda felt like I wanted a path where everyone joined forces, but at the same time didn't because it felt like it would cheapen the whole experience and the game's overall message. Fulfilling this fantasy in a side game, though, seems the perfect way to do things, showing me the path I yearn for while at the same time keeping it separate from the main game and not overwriting all that it showed me. But we'll see if I'm right on both the quality and story when it comes out, and I'll be waiting with bated breath for it. This will be another one I stream, but it'll probably be along the lines of what I did with Arceus, playing it an unhealthy amount night after night until I get it done, so I am a bit worried. And finally, I played through Doki Doki Literature Club Plus on the Switch. It's a visual novel dating sim where you join a literature club containing 4 cute girls with you being the only male member. The gameplay is actually pretty minimal, you making a few choices here and there, with the main bit of interaction being poetry writing. To compose a piece, you're given a list of words that you can choose from. Pick ones that appeal to one of the girls in particular, and the poem you create will be geared more towards them and you'll get extra interactions with them. Pretty simple, right? Of course, I haven't mentioned the main hook of the game, and that's that it leans into psychological horror. It clearly warned you about this when you start up the game to avoid triggering anyone's trauma. I played the base game when it first came out several years back. I saw it being mentioned a lot online, and it was another instance of me being determined to play through it myself before it got spoiled for me like Undertale did. I had my own ideas as to what the twist would be, as well as my own expectations for the genre, but the game surprised me a lot. There's a part of me that wishes I could have somehow played it without the warnings at the beginning, prepping me for some sort of shock so that I could have gone in completely blind, but I understand why they're there and I appreciate their inclusion. The first time I played the game, I played through it naturally to get to the end, but this time I took my time and made sure I saw everything. This game was already very memorable and special to me, but playing through it a second time gave me extra insight into some of the events, and I noticed a lot more. I fell in love with it and its characters, one in particular especially, all over again. My only real complaint was that there was one point that kept crashing the game and I needed to use a special function to get by it. This was a little disappointing since I needed to do this normally to unlock a gallery item. I imagine it was due to programming, since while I know the Switch isn't the most powerful, it would be pretty pathetic if it couldn't handle a visual novel. Last I checked, the game is still free to play on Steam, and there are tons of playthroughs on YouTube, so I would highly recommend checking it out. Just make sure you mind the warnings at the start if you are a sensitive individual. But what about that plus? Well, there's a lot of extra stuff to unlock in a gallery now. More than that though are the side stories. These take place either before the main game or in an alternate timeline, since some of the things do seem incongruent between the two. There really isn't any gameplay with these other than hitting A to advance the text, and yet it's not a bad thing. They show the early days of the literature club, how all the characters met, and how they got to know each other. You get to learn a lot more about each of them and the problems they face. It almost starts to seem more like a therapy club, both for the characters and the person reading. I personally learned a lot about some mental issues that others face, as well as some of my own, really associating with one of the members of the club. I actually did a Google search on her, typing, "Does this character have blank?" And while at first I was disappointed that it didn't autofill, when I hit enter, the first result was a Reddit post titled verbatim what I had typed in. Reading it, it led credits to what I had suspected about her and myself as well, making me feel all the more attached to the game. I'm really thankful that this piece of media exists and would recommend the expansion to any fans of the original. That's that. It seems like media has been able to make me feel much more emotional lately. Me tearing up a bit as the one manga ended, almost feeling like crying once I got to the end of Legends Arceus, and just feeling a flood of things playing through Doki Doki. The part of me that was taught that showing emotions is a weakness is a little embarrassed, but the part of me that wants to experience things more deeply and break away from being a robot person is happy, though still a little embarrassed. Still though, I think it's a good thing overall. So, with that said, thank you for watching, maybe subscribe if you enjoy this sort of thing, and perhaps I'll see you in the next episode.